Hey readers, it's Mr. Marshall at Stony Lane again. Yesterday when we talked about how you can get a brand new idea by looking for a pattern in the bullets of your thinking. Okay, so here's what we did. Remember, um, we had all these facts about whales, right? And then we kind of revised our idea to say pods of whales are like human families in lots of ways. Remember how we did that? So, and that's great because I just learned something new about whales. I had a new idea that I never had before, and maybe other people haven't had before either. Um, but like, I want to do more now. I want to do more now because I'm not done. I'm still really interested in reading about whales, and I'm really interested in learning about them and having new ideas that maybe no one else has ever had before. So one thing I can do to be like, well, what's next, right? What do I do next? um, is I can think, well, this whole thinking that I'm doing about whales, like what does that kind of fit into, right? What could that be a part of? Meaning, like if I thought about, like what could this thinking be a part of? Like if this were a chapter inside a chapter book, like if there were a chapter about whales, right? What would be the whole book, right? So I want to think like what bigger thing does this fit into? So I could think about that. Okay, so watch. I'm going to try that now. All right, so if I'm thinking about whales, I could now think about what other thing is that like? What other thing could whales be a part of? Okay, so if I'm thinking about whales, I could think that maybe that could be part of like a bigger book on animals, right? Because whales are animals. Whales are a type of animal. Whales are a type of mammal, right? Those are the kinds of animals they are. They're mammals. Okay. I could think about how whales are an example of ocean life, right? Ocean life. What else could whales be a part of? Whales could be a part of, well, so we were thinking about how they like work together and live together. So we could call that animals in community, right? Because that means that they kind of live together and they do stuff together. Okay. So those are like four examples of what whales could be a part of, what whales could be an example of. So now as a reader, I have to make a plan for what I want to do next because I really like my idea about how pods of whales are kind of like human families. So, but I want to keep reading, but I don't want to just read my whale book. I want to try and find other books that might help me figure this out. Okay. So I could look at my list and be like, so I can see maybe I could read a book about animals and just see, do other animals do this too? Are there other animals that kind of are like a human family? Or maybe a book about mammals. Although I don't know that I have a book about mammals. A book about ocean life. Are there other things that live in the ocean that act like a family? Animals that live in community. Like if I could find a book about animals living in community, I could look at that. Or I could put any of these into Google and see if I could find information about how animals live in community because that might make me learn something bigger, right? That's like the next thing I want to do. Okay. So I want to make that plan. I want to make that plan. So now I'm going to pick, I think I would get the most out of looking for, if I could go on the internet and look for animals in community, I bet that's the fastest way I could find that. Or if I wanted to just use a book, I would probably, I think I would do a book about animals. Okay. Because there's probably land animals that live and work together too, kind of like whales. Okay. So that's my plan. All right. So I'm going to go to the internet or I'm going to go to some books or magazines or anything else that I can read to learn more about that idea and see if it's true for other animals too. Okay. So why don't you do that? Why don't you take the idea that you've come up with and think, what bigger thing could it fit into? What is it an example of, or what is it a part of? And then do some more reading, and I bet you'll find some really cool things. Okay? Go try that, and I'll see you next time.